Alright guys, welcome to the channel. In today's discussion, we're going to be talking about time management, and this discussion is leading us into the new year. We're going to enlighten you on a lot of things that can help you maneuver through the year, and at least if you start the year properly, you can get through it a lot more better. Okay. Welcome, Martin and Lisa.
Thank
you, Chris.
Yes.
How have you been?
I've been fine. Been really fine. This is going to be an interesting topic. Broad, in a sense, very tough topic because people don't. Sometimes procrastination is a lot easier than getting things done. So we have a lot to talk about today. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Habits of highly effective people. And now that we're entering into the new year 2025, basically we have people who are going to start making New Year's resolutions. I should do this, I should do that. But before you even start making New Year's resolutions, first, let's take a walk back in time and first look at what you told yourself that you would do back in 2023 for 2024, and then look at what you managed to achieve as what you didn't manage to achieve.
That's a good one.
So time management, being one of them. So I'm a big believer of the ability to plan. It's something that I had to learn over time. Sometimes when I used to be a workaholic, I would just literally wake up, just get into code and just write code like the whole day, all night. Until I started now building a team, then I had to learn that, I think I need to plan my day before I actually just get into the whole coding space. Because if I plan my day, then I'm able to know, okay, from this time to this time, I'll be doing this. And then from this time to this time, I'll also be doing that. So that way, I'm able to get multiple things out of the way, in a sense. But then now the question comes in that, what if someone has 8 things to do? And then there's this thing, how do you now prioritize? How do you know what's the most important thing that needs to get done out of the way? And what are the other ones? And I think that's now where me and my wife had to now start talking about prioritization. How do we prioritize the most important ones, the ones that will have the most effect?
Yeah.
My wife was telling me earlier about the 80-20 rule. Will you tell us about it?
Yeah, the work that you spend 80% of your time doing most times doesn't lead to productivity, but the work that you spend 20% of your efforts on is what that leads to productivity.
Yeah. So you said something like 20%. If you spend 20% of your time focusing on something, you'll probably get
80% of the result. Yeah.
Yes, rather than spending 80% on something and then get 20% out.
Of the result.
And it just sort of goes back to their priority. What's the most important thing and the most urgent thing that needs to get done?
Yeah.
Like, for example, we can give a scenario and say, okay, if 2025 you want to build a company or build a business for yourself, what's the most important thing that you're going to have to work on and the most urgent? Then you can then look at another quadrant and say, what's the most important thing to get done, but it's not so urgent, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm getting the other last two. Do you remember? I think the other ones were about what's not so important, but still has to get done.
Still has to get done.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what's not important and it's not urgent, right? So I think those are like the 4 quadrants that we're looking at. So if you actually read the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you'll actually see there's a quadrant in that helps you to just slot in the most important things.
Yeah.
And
It sounds like a template.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is like a
template.
template, like a guiding template. Yeah. And it's like a matrix, actually. It's a quadrant. So it's a matrix that you can just score the most important things. And then you'll get to know that if it's important and urgent, I work on that. If it's important but not so urgent, I could probably delegate that, right?
Yeah.
And if it's now falls into the third one, which is if it is if it's not important and not so urgent as well,
just eliminate it.
Yeah.
You
could eliminate it. Then there's the third one. I just keep forgetting it. It's just mixing me up. But you could schedule it for another time as well. Yeah. So sometimes we get too busy with the things that I'm so busy, but is busy actually being effective? I think that's also another question to ask ourselves. I can get busy building a company. But something that we learned, we actually recently went to a conference at Serena Hotel. Vusi was there, Pembe Kwayo. And then he mentioned that entrepreneurs build teams, and then teams build businesses. The problem that we have is that we want to build a business and then not build a team. But the idea is that when the team comes in, then you're able to delegate the work that is important but not so urgent. Then you can delegate it, or you can schedule it for another period of time. And then so that you can focus on the 20% and then get 80% of results. And it's, I think it's just something that we can, they're just discussing right now, but we can go through a bit more.
I can speak a little bit on that 80-20 principle. So the idea is, if you just focus on something for a short period of time, just something that you intently want to achieve something big in, you're going to get a lot more results. So when I look back at myself, or even just this podcast in a sense, so if we sit here and then we talk, we record content today, the result after we have finished editing the video is that it's going to be shared on social media. It's going to get likes, like we're going to be seen by other people who don't know us, maybe open up opportunities. So 20% of the result, just sitting here recording a full podcast, can amass a lot of possibilities, a lot of things. You get more views, people know you outside of Kampala, outside of East Africa. You get new opportunities, you get people requesting to bring you on for a discussion. That's the whole idea. That's just the best example I can give for the 80-20 principle. Yeah,
and I think that is so true. But sometimes people come up with excuses like, be real, guys. Whatever you're discussing might not be real for me. And then there's this friend of mine, she's a student. She's studying those heavy courses, and she has to be in class, and she wakes up at 5 a.m., has to dress up, bathe, take care of the home, show up in school from morning till evening, leave home, leave school late, come back home and revise. And then the next day it's another thing as well. And then sometimes there are also people who have to work as they study. So now someone who has to go to the job first in the morning, and the job ends at 5. From 5, they have to jump on a border rush quickly to the school where lessons maybe start at 5:36, and then they study till 8:30 p.m. By the time they get home, they are so exhausted and they feel this doesn't really work for me. So how can this still help them?
The basis of the 80-20 principle is you focusing on one specific task. One specific task amasses a lot of possibilities. But if you're trying to juggle so many things, then you're not doing the 80-20 principle. You're doing something else. You're trying to, you're putting your eggs in so many of the baskets or something like that, let's say. So if you want to achieve success, your goals, focus on one thing. At least focus on one thing. Yes, you might be having possibilities. You're okay, if I go to school, if I go to work, because you need work,
you need the money.
You need the money, and then you need school, you need the papers. So you're going to juggle the two of them, and if it's a lot of pressure on you and you can't handle, you might lose out on one. Who knows? Maybe your boss is going to be oh my god, you're always leaving early because you have to go to school. I want someone who's here 24/7. I want someone who's here who can dedicate some more time to the work. But because you have school, you leave early, or you're in school and your grades are going down. Your grades are going down. You're paying tuition every semester, but because of work, your grades are going down. So it's just a matter of focusing on one thing. That's just the core of the 80-20 principle. If you can just get that one thing and focus on it, if you decide that let me work, then work, save some money and pay for your classes. But if you're trying to juggle both of them, maybe what you can do is pick out specific days. Let's say you work on Monday to Thursday. Then Friday and Saturday is for no, you go to school, and then Friday and Saturday is for work. Friday, Saturday, even Sunday, work. Like you just pick. I don't know where you're going to be working like that, but what I'm trying to get to is just at least get a whole day for something specific and not try to juggle two things in one day.
And and as a mental health expert, the biggest challenge that my friend faces when they go through that is the burnout. They might be able to juggle the two things, but at the end of the day, they are so depleted and exhausted. And I usually try to advise her to use the Pomodoro technique, whereby you work for 25 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break. Then you work again for 25 minutes and take a 5-minute break. I try to explain that if you just sit down and like marathon 3 hours, at the end of it, that you're really exhausted down and you will not be able to rise back up. But if you take 25 minutes of work and then 5 minutes of a break, somehow you can even do that and work for 7 hours. You'll be good for 7 hours. So it's actually more effective than just marathoning everything.
Yeah, I think time management has a lot to do with reading your body. Like, understand your body. If you're just doing things because you like, I'm trying to meet goals, but you're killing yourself, like you're exhausted. Sometimes even when I have like a deadline, I know the deadline is coming, it's coming. I will first give myself a break. Like I just need that mental, at least maybe I'll be 10 minutes or 20 minutes late, but it's not too late that it's concerning. So allow yourself to rest. Yes, you have something that is disturbing you, but just allow yourself to rest so that you don't burn out. You don't burn out, And if you burn out, at least dedicate a whole day just to not doing any work. I don't think people work on Sundays or go to school on Sundays. Okay, maybe there's some people who do that, but try to give yourself. I think every job gives you like a free day. Like they're like, maybe Tuesday is your free day, and when you have that free time, use it to the fullest. Like give yourself
Okay, so some people might have free days, but I've met people when I was at campus. I've met people who used to work from Monday to Friday, and Saturday and Sunday were their free days, and they had to study. So that might not be practical, but I think we need to just be smart about certain things. So, for example, I've met people who are working, but they connect themselves to a group of people, maybe at the university, who they can talk with and who they can meet with. Like, let's say they can come to campus and then just do a discussion with them. So rather than trying to read everything, by yourself, you actually have a group discussion about specific topics. So that way you're actually able to easily understand what was taught, understand, this and that, and it helps you learn faster. So I think the 80-20 rule might not apply to all situations, but I think sometimes you can just think about working smart, right?
It's true.
So for example, a lot of people, if you look at businesses around us here in Uganda, you'll find that the same person who owns the business is the accountant. He's also the person to go do marketing. He's the same person to do social media posts and all these sorts of things. But you could also work smart and say, you know what, I can't do everything, but maybe I can hire an intern to help me maybe do just the social media marketing as well, right? And then move on to get someone else helping maybe do the marketing. So that maybe you can, if you love accounting, and focus on the accounting, right? Or probably just get cameras and then you could do something else as the cameras there to just help you to also monitor and see what's going on. I think people should also look at being smart, basically. What is it that I need to do that's the most important thing? If the most important thing is that to set up this business and go somewhere else and also get money, in a sense, that means that this thing you've set up is it's important, but it's not urgent to you. There's something else that is more urgent. So and remember, when you go to that quadrant, you'll find that, hey, probably you could just delegate. Find someone who can come in, or find a way to maybe set systems in place that help people to not maybe steal from you or just take your business down.
Yeah, the biggest hindrance to that entire model is trust. is trust, and also just you maybe you have a lot going on and you spread your money wide. So when it comes to getting someone on board, it becomes a problem because you're like, now what do I have to put off so that I can get money to pay this person? That's the biggest problem. It's something that I'm also facing because I want to get someone to help me out with my work, but again I sit back and I'm like, the income, I've still not achieved this, I've still not achieved that. But it's all about, I think, flexibility. Just be flexible about, or if not flexibility, sit down and understand your finances. Because if you're thinking a lot about you getting someone on board, it's probably because you don't understand your finances, and whenever it comes, it's just spent straight away. So you're not very, very, very like you don't understand your finances really well for you to remove out some things and create some space, put aside some money for this person that you want to bring on board. So just understand your finances and then you can plan better.
Yeah, and also waking up a bit earlier to manage your time better helps. Like you can decide to wake up at 5 a.m. and maybe knock off some things like doing the workouts, the exercise routines that you do, the diets, the eating healthy to take care of your health, maybe reading something to make yourself better at your work, learning a new skill, and then you hit the day, But people who have done that, according to research, people who wake up earlier and learn something new and prioritize taking care of themselves actually perform better in the long run. Then another thing that has also helped has been scheduling. Like if that thing is not so urgent at this particular time, but it's also important, you can schedule it and say, well, today it might not be urgent, but it could be urgent maybe in the next 2 days. So I'm going to work on it tomorrow. And then you set a timer or an alert on your calendar. Nowadays we have applications that can alert you. And then when the alert comes, you make sure you're disciplined enough to do what you schedule that time for. So still you require an element of discipline to keep time. And Ugandans are known for not keeping time. You tell someone my wedding is starting at 9 a.m. and they show up at midday, including the bride and the whole convoy.
I think they call it African time.
I know, right?
Yeah, but you see, so right now we're talking about time management, right? So if you're looking at the year 2025, some things need to just get out of the way.
That's true.
So you can't afford to lose time. There's something that I learned when I was working with some Europeans. So before I started working with them, here in Uganda, you're paid a salary, you're paid per month. When I started working with them, they ask you for your hourly rate. So like, hourly rate, okay, cool. That's new, that's interesting. It's the first time I had to come up with an hourly rate. And it taught me something. It taught me that these guys value time. That means you ought to value your time. That means if I'm looking at my business, how much money am I losing? If by just maybe like 2 minutes of time wastage, how much money have I lost? I was listening to a YouTube video. I'm forgetting the gentleman's name, but he's Kenyan. And he built a huge business and managed to actually sell it. He's actually a pastor as well. I'm just forgetting his name. I remember it stands with, I think his name is Kulia something.
Yeah.
He talked about time. He counts how much money he makes per second. How many people here in Uganda, I would say, not just only Uganda, but around the world, do we value our time? For example, some people some people say, okay, you know what, I'm going to get my money at the end of the month. But have you calculated how much money you make per hour? You make per second, per minute, per second. And then when I calculated, and I was like, whoa, I'm in 0.000, and I was like, okay. right? And I was like, I see. So you might find, just going back to what you were saying, that you might find that this person is saying, you know what, I've set up this business, but I can't hire someone to come in, right? And then he has to be somewhere else. But then at the same time, there's also this ability to calculate the potential of the business. What's the potential? How much money am I potentially losing by
doing everything by myself?
By trying to do everything by yourself. How much money are you actually losing? So nothing's really shifting for you. You're stuck. You're stuck from this year, day in, day out. The whole year you're just stuck. You've not made much progress. The plans you have for 2025 okay, let's do 2024 are just flat. 2025, you try doing something different and then it's just flat. And then it just goes back to the principle. You cannot build a great business if you can't build a team. The idea is that you could probably get an intern. They might not be paid, maybe an S6 vacancy, maybe an S4 person, right? They come on board, but no, for them, they're actually ready to learn, in a sense. Maybe get someone just nearby the area, right? And just put them there. Just for them, and then set up a system. You see, the problem is that you can actually have people who are not great at doing their work, but the system you set in place actually puts them in check. What do I mean by a system? You might find that the only thing you need to do is just install a camera and then have a phone and then go do your other business. And then you're just potentially looking at the records. Or if money comes in, you just set up a software system and then say, okay, so this is money that we've recorded for the full day, in a sense. And then you have it in the system, right? Then you could also just set up, there's so many things that you can think about. And that's what I'm saying, we need to think smart. And then just going back to what you said, being late. Every time you're late for something, I want you to calculate how much money you've earned in that second, in that minute, or in those minutes that you've lost. Like in a day. Once you actually literally see that it's 0 point something, then you'll be like, oh, okay, so I'm actually making myself lose money because of my time wasted. How much time do you spend in jam? That's a lot, right? You could potentially be doing something else that is much more productive. If, let's say, for example, you have to wake up like everybody else at a certain time, maybe you could say, you know what? I'll wake up and then I'll read something. And then probably let the jam clear, then I'll go to work when I've gained something in a certain aspect. And that is continuous learning, where you're always constantly learning something new that helps you with your environment, in a sense. But yeah, I think we need to be smart about how we approach 2025. And
yeah, like you said, as we're going into 2025, it's a new year, it's a new opportunity for us to turn a fresh page. So as we're turning this fresh page into 2025, we should do things differently. Wake up a bit earlier, focus on prioritizing important tasks and delegating those that can be delegated. And if it is not important, eliminate it. Things like, let me scroll my feed. Sometimes it's not important to get on your phone and check your WhatsApp messages the first thing you wake up, the first thing you do in the morning. You could do something else that's more productive. Like when I wake up in the morning, instead of fast scrolling, let me read a page of this book that I am trying to finish, or let me learn a new skill, or let me do some exercise to take care of my body and my health. So I think we need to knock off the habits that were not taking us far and bring in habits that make us effective people.
Yeah, and it starts all with setting goals that can be quantifiable. Like you can calculate and see how much of a result this goal is going to get you. Like, don't just set a goal and say, I want to become a millionaire in 2025. How quantifiable is it? Like, how reachable is it? Let's start small. 2025, if say your goal is, if say you planned to make at least 25 million by the end of the year, then sit down and calculate how can you get there. And I think that can allow you to even think of how you can bring someone on board, because now you've calculated, you've quantified it, you've sat down and just seen how things can be put together if you can be disciplined in that. If you can be disciplined in that sense, and just starts with a goal, like just have a goal.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's been it for this recording, and we'll catch you in the next video.